the time in my day. Right now, I'm working on a I Show Speed series. Um, Originally, this channel was called Man Up Mental Health, where we're here to empower the young men, essentially of all races and all cultures. But I have been working on a African American empowerment series and also European history. So I will be continuing that. But I wanted to add one more video to the I Show Speed Masterclass series. All right. So the Black Race Track. And again, really big fan of the brother. There's just so many lessons that we can extract from a lot of our Black greats and Black leaders in our time. And I think it's so important that we have some of these discussions. And did couple videos yesterday on racism's cure, right? I Show Speed, how he's able to bring all these different cultures together. And on the surface, it just sort of looks like, man, you know, racism, schmacism, what are these Black people complaining about? They basically got the world at their hands, at their feet, what else more do they want? But, sort of like these underlying undercurrent realities that still exist in our culture. Again, I Show Speed is a famous global streamer. Started from the, corners of Ohio, and I want to say Cincinnati, and used the YouTube platform, that has been really picking up steam, these years, for a lot of young entrepreneurs and old alike, to build a very powerful platform and brand that is just reaches all different cultures, all nations. So, in many ways, him being a young African American male from America, he is sort of a big teacher to a lot of younger people across the world, older adults alike, on the modern day African American. All right. Human beings are no strangers to learning from culture and translating that knowledge onto their other personal experiences with similar cultures. So, um, the global mirror, what the world sees in African Americans. Every time we have a African American leader, white American, Asian American, Indian American, in many ways, that figure becomes sort of like a caricature or, uh, sort of like a type of model to give people who may not be exposed to the realities of these groups. I mean, it would be like if we had a really popular Asian American streamer. People who don't have a lot of Asian American friends or exposure to the Asian American community, unconsciously, they're going to sort of get that knowledge through this Asian American streamer. Oh, he eats here. The he becomes they, hey, what's up, Heather? Hey, Zaybach the midget. They used to call me that in high school, Tevin Campbell. You were so funny. Man, you guys on YouTube be hitting hard. Yeah, so whatever, and this isn't a bad thing, whatever leader or star, whatever their culture is, they give insight to people who may not be directly exposed to that culture, how they live. you know Not that everybody lives the same way, right? We're not a monolith, but it's there's knowledge there. So I'm not mad at different cultures and different races around the world if they're like, oh, this is how Black people, they like this type of music, they like this kind of way, and these type of different things. I'm not mad at that. So ISHOW Speed is more than a YouTube star. He has become an international symbol of African American identity in real time. From his Ohio roots to stages across Europe and Asia, his energy, humor, and charisma have created a global audience that often experiences African American culture through him before anywhere else. In many cases, viewers overseas who may have never met an African American person in their lives are building their first impression of the community through Speed's live streams, antics, and his raw presence. That gives him a power and a responsibility that stretches far beyond entertainment. The challenge, however, lies in the thin line between admiration and stereotyping. When international fans embrace Speed's personality, they may confuse his loudness, spontaneity, or passion as the definition of blackness. Admiration can turn into a stereotype when the full complexity of African American life isn't represented. While Speed cannot and should not be responsible for representing every aspect of Black America, his visibility means people are generalizing. What they see in him becomes the script they apply to others. Our mind is always generating scripts and narrative. Our mind is a narrative generator. That's all the mind is, essentially, is just, you know, how can I make from this experience some sort of meaning? It's a meaning generator. So when we're exposed to anything, any culture, any race, there's a narrative that's attached to that exposure. There's a story that we attach to that. So, yet this generalization isn't entirely negative. In fact, it opens doors. By watching Speed thrive, laugh, and succeed, global audiences are seeing African American youth not as downtrodden or defined by struggle, but as innovators, entertainers, and leaders. His international influence creates an opportunity to shift the world's narratives about African Americans away from victimhood towards empowerment. It demonstrates that Blackness is global, adaptable, and inspiring. Hey, what's up? Thank you so much, Carol. I appreciate you. What's up, Halloween two time? So one thing I love about I Show Speed is that he's showing a lot of young Black youth, African Americans. Hopefully, you can't change and can't save everybody, but that you can be great. You can have an impact, even if you come from Ohio. I'm from Detroit, so only thing we really went to Ohio for was for Cedar Point to ride on the roller coasters. It wasn't really a whole lot. I had some family from Cincinnati we went to a wedding for, but outside of that, it wasn't like we were just so ready to go to Ohio. So we're coming from a community where it's not really known for a whole lot. That can inspire a lot of. I'm 6'2". That can inspire a lot of young Black males that, hey, man, even though I'm coming from a corner of the world that doesn't really got a lot going on, I can still be great. I can still have impact. I can still be a positive influence in this world. So I really love that about his legendary run. And again, this is just extracting and vocalizing some of the lessons. And, I see a lot of different people who kind of comment on him. And a lot of times it's just them kind of recreating the streams and things that he's already been doing. But I really want to extract some wisdom from this experience. So, yet this generalization is not entirely negative. In fact, it opens doors. By watching Speed thrive, laugh, and succeed, okay, global audiences are seeing African American youth not as downtrodden or defined by struggle, but as innovators, entertainers, and leaders. His international influence creates an opportunity to shift the world's narratives about African Americans away from victimhood toward empowerment. It demonstrates that Blackness is global, adaptable, and inspiring. This video will break down 15 narratives that ISHOWSPEED is showing the world through his career, personality, and his choices. Okay, narratives that are shaping how the world views African Americans today. These are not just observations about one young man's journey, but reflections on what visibility means for an entire culture. With visibility comes influence, but also responsibility. And in this global climate of discrimination against Black people, every narrative matters. All right. So, one narrative, Black joy as resistance. Okay, I Show Speed demonstrates that Black identity is not only defined by struggle, but also by joy, comedy, and energy. That's one thing I loved about this American tour, which I think we all miss, right? Even my wife was fighting with me, like, why are you always watching this motherfucker? You need to be coming here, you're not giving me attention. Like, hey, I just started watching his ass fucking like 5 days last week, and I'm already getting it from my wife. You just get hooked, right? It just feels so good, and it could be anybody. I'm not just limited in my vision to see Black people, living life. I like to see anybody, you know, thrive and just who authentically just enjoy and try to get the most out of life. It is addictive, especially when we live in a world where everything is driven by work and clocking in and clocking out. And I got to pay the mortgage. I got to pay the bills. And you got a kid hanging up the damn ceiling, and you're stressed out, and, the government shutdowns, all it's so much negativity. in this world. So anytime you can get a break from the negativity and you could just see someone enjoying life. Yeah, I know people got millions and they got all this type of money, but millions doesn't make you happy. You have a lot of people who got plenty of money. Hey, what's up, Timmy? Plenty of money, plenty of wealth, and they're miserable as hell. So just because he has millions doesn't mean that, oh, he has all this money. Of course, it's part of it, but he can have millions and still be depressed. So I think that's just a part of his character, right? He just loves and enjoys life. So his laughter and outrageous reactions become powerful reminders that Black life is not just a story of hardship. It is also full of light and play. For audiences who only consume news about African Americans in the context of racism, crime, or poverty, Speed is a shockwave of positivity. He flips the script by making humor central to the Black story. This matters because joy itself becomes resistance against a world that often tries to box African Americans into narratives of pain. A lot of times you just get, that's why some people get Black fatigue. They're like, damn, I'm tired of hearing about the slave story, Randy. I get it. You niggas were slaves. You came here against your will. You're dealing with systemic oppression. I get it. I got it. What can I do? I didn't do it. It was my grandparents. It was my ancestors. It wasn't me, Randy. Shit, you're making me feel powerless. What the fuck can I do about it? I donate. I have charities. I'm running community drives. We're out in fucking Africa. You got white people building up communities and underprivileged communities, building schools. What the fuck can we do, Randy? So I get that, and that's why I love that, you know, we have, not even just him, we have a lot of Black people who are, sometimes opening up other narratives around Black folks. Not everything is about struggle and oppression and discrimination and police brutality and protesting and burning shit down. you know we have other aspects to our reality and to who we are as human beings, just like white folks. Everything about white folks isn't colonialism and fucking, the police and blue lives matter and, we fucking hate niggers. Everything is not, that's not these narratives. There's so much to a human life, right? We have moments of joy, we have moments of family, we have moments of belonging. Sometimes we make mistakes and we laugh at the shit, right? So I love to see that, other narratives being attached to the Black identity outside of oppression, outside of division, outside of crime, outside of poverty. You know, the power of raw authenticity. Speeds unscripted. Thank you for subscribing to me. I appreciate you. All the subscribers, all the viewers, it really means a lot to me. I've only been on YouTube for about 3 months. I was on the fence about even joining YouTube because I was just kind of like, I'm late in the game. But, I just kind of, I do what I do because I love to do it. So I really appreciate it. Speed's unscripted, unpredictable style shows that. So the power of raw authenticity, the power of raw authenticity. All right. Speed's unscripted, unpredictable style shows that African Americans can be unapologetically themselves without editing their personality to fit cultural expectations. Many Black entertainers abroad have historically been forced to conform to stereotypes or palatable versions of themselves. Speed throws that away. He yells, he cries, he jokes, he stumbles. His imperfections are a part of his appeal, teaching global audiences that authenticity is not a weakness, but a strength. This matters because it disrupts the expectation that Black people must perform a polished identity to be accepted. Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that when I watched some of his videos. I was like, damn, this motherfucker, I curse a lot too, so I can't point at him at cursing. But I was just thinking, like, man, he cursed. When you curse a lot, but you're around people who curse more than you, it kind of puts a mirror to your cursing. I'm like, dang, is that how I sound? I curse like every word come out my mouth as a curse word. Because you don't really recognize it when you're doing it, but when you see somebody else curse a lot, I know you guys get what I'm saying. Like, you're watching Speed and you're like, man, every word come out of his mouth is a curse word. Goddamn this, goddamn that. And I'm just like, man, is that how I sound when I'm talking to my wife and my kids? Maybe I need to kind of work on my cursing. So some people kind of reveal how big the log is in your eye, right? You're seeing their little log, and you're like, man, I see how big my log is. So being authentic, being yourself, be you, do you. Like I said, we may not be as great as Speed, we may not have as much global impact as Speed, but it's all right. Just being you, being who you are is impactful enough. So Black youth as global trendsetters. When Speed live streams, global audiences aren't just watching, they're copying his slang, gesture, and memes. From the W and L culture to his over-the-top reactions, Speed has injected African American youth culture into the bloodstream of global internet language. Non-Black audiences are now using his expressions without realizing they come from a Black cultural source. This matters because it shows how African American youth drive global trends, all right? Often without being given the credit that they deserve. Absolutely, you know, and it's such a beautiful thing because it shows how we really all have a lot more in common than we think we do. Okay, you could be black, white, Asian, Indian, German, Brazilian, for wherever you want to be from, but it shows you guys the common thread that we have as humans, right? And that Black culture translates, right? There is a such thing as culture; it's translatable. Okay, sometimes the media would like you to think that, yeah, these niggas belong in the hood in Detroit and Ohio where they belong. Let them stay there. We're gonna redline these communities because we don't want them all over the place. Or actually, Black community, Black excellence translates, right? Other people embrace it, and we all help make each other better. All right. So again, this matters because it shows how African American youth drive global trends, often without being given the credit that they deserve. Four, confidence without apology. Okay, speed embodies confidence that borders on wildness, and that energy challenges stereotypes of Black men as dangerous or threatening. Instead, his chaos is comedic, his volume is fun, and his energy feels safe even while being over the top. For international viewers, this challenges the assumption that loud Black masculinity is aggression. Instead, they see that it can be play, self expression, and entertainment. This matters because it shifts global perceptions of Black men from threat to thrill. Five, vulnerability in masculinity. Despite his bravado, Speed has shown tears, disappointment, and vulnerability on stream. When he loses games, when he gets embarrassed, when he feels rejected, he shows raw emotion. For global viewers, this is a counter narrative to the stereotype of Black men as emotionally hardened or detached. They see a young Black man being sensitive and real. This matters because it teaches the world that Black masculinity includes vulnerability. And that vulnerability is strength, not a weakness. And I think all men can learn from this, especially men who are in counseling actively. It's nothing wrong with being vulnerable and allowing your family, allowing your wife, allowing your children to see you cry sometimes, to kind of see more of a range of emotional expression from you sometimes, because it exposes them to your humanity. All right. When other people have some of these same feelings, but they're not seeing them from you, you create a block for yourself where people can't connect to you in the way that you really want because they don't even know if you understand these emotions or these feelings, right? But when they see you cry, when they see you have joy, when they see, different range of emotions come from you, it just opens you up to a different range and depth of experience with your loved ones, with the community, and with the world, all right? So it's nothing wrong with being masculine and having a touch of vulnerability, okay? Six, Black creativity as global currency. Speed's ability to improvise entertainment out of thin air highlights the endless creativity of African American culture. Whether it's dancing, reacting, or riffing off a moment, he constantly creates something new. Audiences across continents are glued in not because of expensive sets or corporate production, but because of his creativity. This matters because it reinforces the truth that African American creativity has always been one of the greatest exports America's had to offer. Seven, African Americans as global ambassadors. By traveling to Europe, Asia, and beyond, Speed has become a cultural ambassador. Whether he asks for it or not, he introduces African American identity to people who may never meet a Black person in their hometowns. His behavior becomes the template through which they imagine African Americans. This matters because it shows the responsibility attached to visibility. What he does becomes what others believe about the whole, right? So there's not a whole lot of Black African Americans in America, right? So when you're going out in the world, it's not like, it's so many of us that, people, there's African Americans all over in China and all over. She's been in places where they probably have never seen an African American in some of these communities, right? Especially on his China tour, and not even just that, just other tours that he's done way across the globe. So this kind of helps, is it going to solve all of Black people's problems? Absolutely not. But it kind of helps expand their awareness and their consciousness and, sort of like their social ability with African Americans in the future, being exposed to his influence. Challenging the respectability politics. For generations, Black leaders were told to act proper to gain international respect. Okay. Speed disrupts that model by being loud, playful, and chaotic and still gaining global admiration. Audiences cheer his authenticity, not his conformity. This matters because it reveals that the old model of respectability may not be the only way African Americans can gain respect abroad. Instead, being unapologetically real can be just as powerful, right? So, redefining Black American identity beyond sports and music. So I'm mindful that, he does play a lot of sports. He's very athletic, very talented, but he's not boxed into just one sport or into one category, right? Has a very broad skill set. So it says traditionally the world saw African Americans through sports, rap, or R&B. Speed introduces another path, gaming and streaming, and also sports. He shows that young African Americans are not boxed into the usual entertainment categories. They can dominate entirely new digital industries. This matters because it redefines Black potential in the global imagination, expanding beyond the stereotypes of athlete or musician. All right. There's a lot of Black greats. There's a lot of, great African Americans out there who are not I show speed, but they have just as much potential, just as much bravado and creativity and just impact. All right. So it's good to see all of us kind of come together as a community and to kind of expand and to show the world, the diversity of our influence and our talents. All right. Building unity across races through entertainment. Speed's fan base is incredibly diverse. He has millions of non Black supporters who find themselves laughing, learning, and enjoying his content. For these fans, he becomes their bridge into the African American identity. He fosters unity not by lecturing, but by entertaining. This matters because it teaches the world that unity often begins with shared joy. And this is what I was talking about in one of my other videos about how, with I think the younger generation and even the older generation, that some people don't get the lesson through lecture, right? I'm mindful that with my style, it's very much a lecture based style. I'm a master's degree, family, marriage, and family therapist. You know, I'm mindful that, a lot of my videos do kind of adopt a lecture approach that doesn't resonate with everybody. All right. A lot of people don't like the lecturing style. Okay. So some people do, but not everybody, right? Some people prefer to just have that playful sort of, joy approach, and they sort of get the lesson, that way. So to each his own. I'm authentically me, so I'm fine with being, who I am. I'm also diverse as well, but I love to teach, and I love to learn as well. But I think that's one great quality that I Show Speed sort of taps into, is just, getting the knowledge through joy, through this shared joy, through entertainment, making others laugh, making others sort of like extract that joy out of life, right? There's many different ways that you can help teach a lesson besides just lecturing in the lecture hall, right? This approach isn't the only approach, all right? But all approaches are valid, okay? So 11, African American youth as innovators, not just consumers. Speed doesn't just consume culture, he creates it. His catchphrases, his mannerisms, his stream formats are innovations that others copy. This shows international audiences that African American youth are producers of culture, not just consumers of culture and what others create. This matters because it corrects a false narrative that African Americans are passive participants in global culture, where in truth they are active architects. All right. 12, digital influence is power. Speed demonstrates that a Black teenager from Ohio can influence millions across the globe without Hollywood, without a label, without corporate middlemen. His career proves that digital influence is real power. Global audiences see that Black youth can rise from anywhere and dominate worldwide attention. This matters because it decentralizes power and shows that gatekeepers no longer control representation. For a long time, you could not really make an impact. That's why I'm really thankful for the YouTube platform, because it does, even though I know YouTube kind of has its red tape and different things like that, but it does give more African American youth opportunities and greater opportunities to shine their light. For a long time, Hollywood was the primary gateway to really having global dominance. And if you didn't meet the executives sort of expectations, and you're going through all these different casting calls, if you don't look the role, if you're not the right height, if you're not the right shade, or all these different things, you didn't really have a way in. So he just completely bypasses these gatekeepers. 13, normalizing everyday blackness. When Speed eats, jokes, rages, or plays, he's normalizing everyday black life to audiences who may only know African Americans through the news or movies. When I met my wife, she's from China. She didn't know a whole lot about fucking black people outside of what she saw in the media. Even her mother. They're like, why black? These black people are they're looking at the news, they're like killing each other. Oh, they're dangerous, right? So a lot of this is a reality. A lot of these different cultures, especially in China, they only know niggas from what they see in like hip hop music, the news streams, and all the media outlets. All right. So to see like an everyday black person live their life is like a big deal, and to be non threatening. Yeah, so when he eats, jokes, rages, or plays, he's normalizing everyday black life to audiences who may only know African Americans through the news or movies. His life becomes a window into ordinary youth culture. This matters because it broadens global understanding. Blackness isn't exotic, alien, or threatening. It's human, relatable, and familiar. 14, couple more. The globalization of black struggle and triumph. When Speed encounters racism abroad, millions see it live, but they also see how he responds with humor, resilience, and sometimes frustration. His experiences globalize the understanding of racism, showing that discrimination isn't just an American issue. This matters because it educates international fans about the global reality of anti blackness and the strength it takes to endure it. Hey, what's up, Stud Studios? Good to see you. 15, inspiration for African American youth at home. Finally, Speed's visibility matters not only abroad, but back home. Young African American kids see him dominate global stages and realize they can too. He becomes proof that they can carve their own lane, be authentic, and still achieve international success. This matters because representation fuels aspiration. When they see him, they see themselves. All right. Tigers got the playoffs win today, on to the second series. Nice. My man. Oh, that's good to know. Nice. So why this matters? ISHOW Speed is shaping the global mirror through which African American identity is reflected. His visibility isn't just about him. It's about how billions of people will interpret what it means to be black in America. While that comes with risk of stereotyping, it also brings unprecedented opportunities for rewriting narratives. His career shows the power of visibility. It influences perception, builds unity, and challenges outdated ideas about what it means to be African American, right? So, really happy, really proud, very proud. What a time to be alive. We have so many greats, so many black greats, and American greats that are helping to rewrite, reshape the narrative. And this really means a lot to me. This is like so important. You see, you're doing homework right now. Nice. So, salute to the young man. Salute to all of you young people out there that are trying to, you know, rewrite the narrative, create, and really make an impact on this world in a positive way. We do see you. We do appreciate what you guys are doing. Yeah, so that was all I had. I'll probably do a few more videos on the iShow Speed series and some different topics to kind of help expand you guys' perception of what we can extract from this legendary run. Um, Today, probably gonna go pick up my daughter and gotta pick her up from the daycare, so I have to end work a little bit earlier today and probably take her to the park, do some family time, stuff like that. Um, But I appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning into the video. Again, being you matters. Your unique personality, your unique gifts, skill set, what you bring. Can nobody else bring that to the table? All right. So you're just as unique and just as special as I Show Speed, just as, all the leaders that we have. You have a blessed rest of your day too. Believe in yourself, right? He's teaching you to believe in yourself. All right. Even me at almost 40, this is like I'm just eating this up because sometimes as a black person you do get discouraged. It's just like, damn, what can I do? All the opportunities, everything's taken. Everything you think of that you want to do is taken. Every opportunity door you want to go through is already filled, is already aligned to the doors. So you do get discouraged, but it's just, believe in yourself, create opportunities. Don't give up. Keep God first, and believe that it can be possible. All right, it can be possible. And it's not an age limit on respect and admiration. All right, you can be fucking 50, and still admire a young person, and you can be 20 and admire an older person. All right. We're all in this together, but you young people, I really believe in you guys. You guys are such a blessing to this world, and to see what you guys are doing, and even how you support speed, it really inspires me. I had a lot of racial trauma, in my life, coming from the military, just dealing with stuff through my profession as a therapist. There's not a lot of black therapists, right? So having to overcome a lot of discrimination and prejudice and just awkwardness in work settings where you're basically outnumbered. It makes you feel like, so insecure, like, man, shit, do I even belong in some of these spaces? But when I see the different races and the different groups and cultures supporting him, it is inspiring. Even though you guys don't know him from Adam, but you know enough about him to want to support him and even go out your way to kind of meet up with him and celebrate him. That's a blessing. So really appreciate you guys. Thank you for supporting our community, supporting our people, showing love, putting out. You guys are awesome too, the audience. And, again, love you guys. I'm about to check out, go pick up my daughter. Wife is blowing me up. I already told her I was gonna pick her up. She messaged me 100 times. You gonna pick her up? You gonna pick her up? You gonna pick her up? I'm like, girl, I told you I was gonna pick her up. So I'm gonna go pick up Harmony. All right. You guys have a blessed day. All right. Peace.